time ago. Let's talk about these legal changes that have come. You want to know why there's litigation going on? You want to know why this is taking so long? Because the Democrats and their surrogates in the Biden campaign brought over 200 to 300 lawsuits in the lead up to the election to change the voting systems in each state. And the Trump campaign is trying to address them now, confront them, and deal with them, because all of these cases that involve the Democrats were intended to make fraud easier, if not institutionalize it. And they write in ABC News, thanks to legal challenges from voting rights advocates, meaning left-wing Democrats and their party, some states that typically require ballots to be received by polls closing time will now accept ballots postmarked by Election Day for the 2020 election. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court said, we don't even care if there's a postmark. We don't care if there's a signature. We don't care if the signatures don't match. That was a case brought really by the Democrat governor who couldn't get these things from the Republican legislature. So they went in the court and got it from the Democrats on the Supreme Court. In the 3 blue wall states the president won in 2016, they wrote, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, judges have recently issued rulings that extend the deadline for mail ballots to be received. Judges. The text of the Constitution says that's unconstitutional. Judges don't get to make that decision, whether they're state judges or federal judges. That's in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. In Michigan, a court of claims judge, the lowest judge there is in the state, ordered clerks to accept ballots that are postmarked by November 2 and received within 14 days of the election, the deadline for results to be certified. These ballots have to be counted as provisional ballots. Legislature didn't pass that. The Republicans didn't agree to that. In Wisconsin, a U.S. federal district judge ruled that ballots postmarked by November 3rd can be counted as long as they're received by November 9th. The legislature didn't do that in Wisconsin. And in Pennsylvania, these are all Republican legislatures that are being overruled by courts by these voting advocates, Democrats who are bringing these cases. And in Pennsylvania, not only will mailed ballots that are postmarked on or before 8 p.m. on Election Day and received by 5 p.m. the Friday after it be counted, due to a ruling from the state Supreme Court, any ballots that arrive within that time frame without a postmark or with an unreadable postmark will be presumed to have been sent before the cutoff point unless evidence indicates otherwise. That is a violation of the federal Constitution. State law did not provide for that. In Minnesota, ballots postmarked by Election Day and received within a week after the election will be counted. Both Massachusetts and Kentucky are allowing postmarked ballots received by November 6th to be counted. In New Jersey, it goes on and on and on. These changes have been taking place. Notice this. I don't know of a single newsroom that has put a chart on the monitor to show you all the changes that occurred in the last year or so, even in the last 90 days, in these states by court order or by decisions of secretaries of states or boards of elections to get around Republican legislatures. This is a highly abusive and controversial election across the country. In Georgia, a federal judge ruled that ballots postmarked by Election Day will count if election officials get them by the 3rd day after the election. But the Secretary of State, the Republican National Committee, Georgia Republican Party are challenging this order. But you have courts that are just stepping in and changing the election laws. And this is really quite shocking. Trump campaign lost its lawsuit in Nevada, seeking to stop the state from mailing out ballots, among other pursuits. Nevada changed its mail-in procedures, that they're mailing it to the election rolls, 60 days before the election. 60 days. Then they put in ballot harvesting. They did a very controversial way of checking signatures that, of course, excluded any Republican observer. And you can go on into New Jersey and these other states. So these are very serious matters. So when you have politicians who are just out there saying, like Romney has no idea what I'm talking about. He hasn't looked at a single thing. Neither has Sass, Mr. Constitution. He's not Mr. Constitution. Now, what should happen in these states? What should have happened and what should happen is that these Republican state legislatures in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, and these other states, Georgia and so forth, they should have issued a resolution early on stating that we, under the federal Constitution, have an oath and have a duty to ensure that Article 2 is upheld, that we make the election laws, not anybody else, period. And that the election laws that were in place but changed by federal and state courts or by fiat by a Secretary of State or an election board are null and void. And all counts should be based on the election laws that we put in place that were unconstitutionally altered. Any votes beyond that are illegal and unconstitutional. And if you're going to cry about disenfranchisement, blame the Democrats, the courts, and the people who did that.